The next Batman, Second Son, issue 3 of 4, that is. So this is chapters 7, 8, and 9. John Ridley writing Tony Akins on art. The basic focus of this batch of 3 issues is the deposition. It's Jace going in and telling the story of what happened when he was younger. We find out that he had a guy with his car, but we get a slice of his lifestyle. He was this, spoiled rich kid who had fast cars, had parties. He never learned anyone's names. He was very frivolous in that sense. A girl kind of like pulls him up for it because when he tries to chat her up, he doesn't even ask her name. Like he just kind of like, hey, you must know me. I'm Tim Fox. I'm the best. And that's kind of his whole thing. And then of course, he hits this guy with his car, and immediately Lucius and his mother, but Lucius especially, starts like, oh, how do we solve this in the media? Oh, wait, this guy had a troubled past, leak that. Oh, this guy, was drunk, leak that. He's like, he starts leaking all these things, and eventually Tim's like, all this doesn't change the fact that I was on my phone talking to a girl when I hit him with the car. Like, I'm the one at fault here. Like, that's basically what he says to his dad. And, there's a sort of poignant moment where Lucius says, like, no, if what do you think would happen if you were the one who was hit? You're a young black man. What do you think anyone would be fighting for you? But when he sort of continues making these points, and he says, people like us have to be able to fight back. And wait, what do you mean people like us? Do you mean rich people? Because the point he's clearly making is like, yeah, we are fortunate enough that we have money and lawyers that we can fight this way, but most people don't. Over 99% of them don't, typically speaking. So it's sort of hitting at this sort of thing where, Lucius is kind of in this weird place because, while he is black, he is also completely filthy rich. And that puts him into a slightly different camp at the same time. And kind of the opposing mentality of those two worlds sort of clashing, and how Jace has kind of rebelled against his family in a lot of ways because of how they've leaned into their money. And we even see his mother kind of try to pull her strings with getting documents redacted and stuff like that in this issue. But that was the bulk of the issue. The first third built up to it. The second issue was him in the meeting, and the third was basically the little extra stuff that he hadn't finished talking about yet, where he still felt like all the worst stuff came after with how his dad handled it and all that. Yeah, it's a solid chapter. It's obviously the biggest prominent thing. There was a scene at the start of the very first chapter in this book that I wasn't necessarily sure what he was doing yet. He seems to be like recruiting someone or something, like Jace that is, or making sure someone's who he thinks it is. If this was something that follows on from a previous issue, I'd forgotten whatever it was. But there's a couple more scenes with the detectives and the idea that the one cop who let Batwing go when he was supposed to arrest him. And how Montoya kind of knows something like that went down. She doesn't necessarily know exactly what happened, but goes to the partner. You're the one who we saw in Future State and says, hey, soon this is going to be a law we have to enforce completely. So you're going to have to make a choice about sticking up for your partner if they do something like that kind of thing. So it's kind of just setting up that she's been put in a rough place. If nothing else, it feels like all of this is really prominent backstory for when we get the actual book that's kicking off in August/September. So yeah, it's still in continuity. It still feels like part of the world, so it doesn't just feel like a weird offshoot. I will say it's done a pretty good job of making both Lucius and his wife a little unlikable, which is weird because you actually think of Lucius Fox being an unlikable character, but
no, but think about in Grifter, the fact that he socializes with that dude, that's who he thought to be his bodyguard.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. But that nobly's coming at the same time. It's almost like editorial has decided that Lucius is going to be a little unlikable for a while.
Yeah.
And that's just the status quo right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the few people that can tell Bruce no. So, you gotta do something.
So,
being a little antagonistic.
Yeah, interesting. They're not bad. I'll give it a 7.5, and I feel like I'm docking it at least half a point just for the digital format, which I still don't love. And I feel like I'm having to swipe twice as much as I should be just because they've got them all split into half pages. But that's basically it. It's solid. Yeah, I think the first chapter was a little bit more wonky, but once it got to the second two, when it was really Jace getting into the backstory and sort of given us everything that he actually did and how he reacted to it. It was kind of like everyone but him didn't want to have him accept the responsibility, but he did. He actually felt the guilt. He felt that he'd done something wrong, and everyone else was trying to cover it up and tell him that, oh no, you don't want to take responsibility. You're just in shock. You know, we'll fix this. We'll fix this.
Right.
So
it's the two different justice systems.
Yeah. So no, super interesting. It makes us root for him a bit more because he is this morally more sound. Even if he was a bit of a shithead beforehand, when he goes through something like this, he ultimately is wanting to stick to his guns, and that, you know, that means something. So, and the conflict that's caused with the family.